Yeah, so what? It's your boy, Bits and Bobs. Good morning, everyone. This is another episode of Bits and Bobs Meets. Today it is Sir Geoff Palmer. Um, this gentleman is a pioneer, a leader for our community in Scotland. And for me, he's an uncle. He's a gentleman I've spent time with, our families have spent time with, and I'm very happy for him and all his achievements. So Geoff, welcome. Thank you for coming on. How are you?
Morning. I'm okay, and thanks for the invite.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I'm going to call you Uncle Geoff because that's what I call
No,
you anyway. And if I was to see you on the street, that's how I'd hug you and say to you, Uncle Geoff. So Uncle Geoff, how have you been? How are you?
I'm okay. As you know, I've been little busy since March. I didn't plan it.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that. So what have you been up to since March?
Well, I think what has started this. I was thinking of it this morning, and I thought, why am I doing all these Zoom meetings and Teams meetings, and why am I on all these committees? And it's because somebody asked me in March, what about statues?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, we shouldn't take them down. If you, the phrase I used, if you remove the evidence, you remove the deed. And therefore, to me, these statues are part of Black history.
100%. I think that.
And if we take them down, then in 100 years' time, nobody will know what Mr. Colston did in Bristol,
mm-hmm.
and they won't know what Mr. Dundas did in Edinburgh.
Factual. And mentally, how has that been for you?
Pardon? Mentally?
Mentally, how has that been?
It's interesting that, well, in terms of, you mean the work which has followed that statement?
Yeah, because, obviously, what you are saying is that, obviously, we've got to keep them because it's all about for our history, okay? So what I'm saying is that mentally, how is that for you? How is that for when you are reliving what these people done? How is that for you when you are having conversations with other people?
Right.
To talk about, how is that mentally for you,
That's very important in a sense that, I speak to some people, both Black and white people,
mm-hmm.
and, and non-white in general, I would say. And it's interesting you've asked that because sometimes I have to convince non-white people that, these statues should stay.
Yeah.
And I remember speaking to a person, and after I gave my explanation,
mm-hmm.
they actually said, we hadn't seen it that way. In a sense that if you take them down, somebody can say to your grandchildren, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying as well is to put a plaque on them, put a plaque on it saying exactly what these people did.
Mm-hmm.
And believe you me, it is harder to get a narrative on a plaque saying what somebody did in slavery, enslaved Black people, African people. It is harder to get that on a plaque than to say, don't take the statues down.
Mm-hmm.
Because some people would rather have the statues down.
True. And I'm one of the people who wants the statues to stay because it is a part of our history. I want the statues to be there. I want a plaque to say, this is what this person done.
Yeah.
Whether it was positive or negative, we're learning.
Absolutely. And you'd be surprised that the fighting I've had, I was on a committee for 3 years to talk about the narrative on the plaque for Henry Dundas in the middle of Edinburgh, and we got nowhere because half the committee was saying he was an abolitionist, he was a good guy.
Mhm.
And I said he transported over 600,000 people because of his politics. And the point is that, you know, the chairman, this is the thing, one of the problems with a democracy, if it's 50-50 voting, nothing happens. And our committee was disbanded on the basis of that. And it was when the sad, you know, crucifixion, as I call it, of George Floyd,
Yes.
and the world saw that a Black person was being killed over 8 minutes. That is what's caused this change. That's why I'm talking to you today. It's because people have not had that history.
Mhm.
They've not seen it. And what they were seeing over 8 minutes was, in fact, the persecution and the attitude of a white person to a Black person. And that changed the world. You know, we've had other killings before and sad events, but we witnessed that. And what I'm saying is that the problems I've had is people are saying, for example, you know, another little fight is, oh, but we had slaves in Britain as well. So what's the big deal about slavery in the Caribbean? And
what a question!
And this is not just from white people.
Wow.
And therefore, the point is that because we don't know the history very well, that why anybody would try and compare a servant in servitude in Britain working in a mine with a Black person taken from Africa, knowing where they were going, don't see their families again, ever, and at a lifespan of less than 10 years. And you had to have an abolition process because it was legal. And compare that with servitude, called a slave. And I'm not saying that all evils are wrong, all slaveries are wrong, but they must not be compared, because what people are doing, whether it's plaques or whether it's talking about slavery, they're trying to balance. We had slaves and you were slaves, so what's the big deal?
Yeah, that's quite wrong and very silly to compare, because, you know, I mean, what you're saying there is just, you can't compare full stop. You know, you shouldn't compare full stop, especially with the experiences and so on. Regarding that, Uncle Geoff, I mean, when you come against stuff like that, you know, does such statements make you go insane, or does such statements motivate you to be like, I'm going, because of this energy, because of what you're saying, that's what motivates you to keep going, to keep teaching?
You put your finger on it. In fact, I get up each morning, you know, and I'm saying, I'm 80, I'll be 81 in April.
You look good, Uncle. You look good. You look good.
And I've had a relative in London who is saying to me, oh, you know, why are you killing yourself? Why are you doing that? And the point is, I say to relatives or non-relatives, if you can do it for me, I'll stop. I said, I don't mind giving it up if you would do it for me. Because what we need, you know, the battle is, you have a historian who knows you don't know the history, both sides. They do. And the point is, they can manipulate the argument. And the point is that if you don't have somebody saying, when somebody says to me, Henry Dundas was a good guy, I said he was going to breed slaves.
Yes.
He ordered the purchase of slaves. What sort of abolitionist is that? Therefore, they can't respond to that. And that negates their argument. And that's why we now have a debate, and why, in fact, we have a case.
Mm-hmm.
The point is that you've got to be able to challenge the nonsense like we had slaves too, because there's a completely different situation. But I've seen that used many times and still being used to stop us gaining a say as to how the situation should change.
Mm.
And believe you me, as you said earlier, God, that's silly. Because when you state it, it is.
100%.
But that argument has been used because you've then got to say why it's silly.
And you know that's why, because the conversation, I won't say arguments, the conversations I have when I'm talking about it, I say to them, you know, where would you? People say, oh, where would you, if I took your siblings and your mother and your father and all your family members and enslaved them, where would you put my statue up? That's what people say to me. And I said to them, okay, fair enough. However, I'd still want to know what you've done.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would still want to know what you've done. And, you know, that's history, isn't it? How do we learn by history? Because it's written, it's in statutes, it's in plaques, it's there. So we can all learn from it. I mean, we can read the same sentence and maybe take two different outcomes. But the fact is, the information on these plaques, information on these statues is factual. And we have to identify what they've done. And I'm 100% behind you. You know, I call you my mentor. And I think, you know, what I see you've been doing and are currently doing, for me, it just motivates me even more. I always say that pioneers like yourself has paved the way for a gentleman like me to be able to be confident, comfortable, to speak out on racism, slavery, because, you know, one thing I learned, Uncle, when you have an argument or a conversation and you hit someone hits you with their opinion, then you then reply with facts. It's no longer a conversation, is it?
Well, you're absolutely right, in a sense that a lot of the debates and arguments and stuff I've been having on Twitter, and I do the Twitter thing because, you know, it is reaching an audience, which that audience doesn't have to go to a textbook or a research paper, which nobody will read, or, you know, 6 people read it. We are saying things daily, and the point is that I didn't know anything about Twitter, but it has been significant in informing people.
Yep.
And it's some of the debates I've had on it, where one of the tricks which I've learned, and that's why I engage in these arguments, because I'm learning how the racist thinks and how they respond. So if they were smart, they should stop. If I were a racist, I would stop writing stuff. Because it has taught me, and for example, one thing I've learned was, if I put forward evidence, which is written, which is original source evidence, somebody who is attacking me will say, I've put up evidence and you haven't. The point is that I've put it up. But somebody who could just say, you haven't put up any evidence, when it's there, and that I've put up evidence when they put nothing up. And they keep saying that. And the point is that to me is frightening. Because what it is that they are trying to use the old trick that what a Black person says has no validity.
That's a culture in itself, though, isn't it?
Well, it's what you could call it systemic racism.
Yes.
It's where, in fact, what you're saying and I'm saying has no validity. And I'm talking about even my scientific work, which, you know, has influenced the way people now think all over the world. The point is with that, is that, you know, my work was being used in industry to produce, you know, products, but still in the scientific literature, people are saying, well, it works, but it doesn't work the way he says it works.
Yes, and you know, that's it's an opinion, isn't it? You know, it's someone's opinion, but like I said, you know, with the facts and stuff, it shouldn't really. But we're always going to get internet trolls, you know, and
this is not internet. This is not internet troll.
Oh no,
This is scientific research. Yeah, this is scientific research papers.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying to you. So what I'm saying to you, like with the research papers, no matter what you put out, there's still going to be someone who doesn't agree with you or who doesn't think what you're saying is valid, regardless of the information you provide. And
well, it shouldn't be.
Well, yes, I know. I agree with you, Uncle Geoff, but today's society, you know, would reply completely different. And that's what I want to ask you. Being obviously a young black gentleman in Scotland and in the world today, how do you reflect on it? You know, what do you think of society? I mean, I have to ask, do you think anything's changed?
I think believe you me, I think I've seen, and I've been in Britain since 1955.
Yep, you're a young man.
As a young man, 1955. And I've seen a greater change over the since March than I've seen from 1955 till March. In terms of people listening, people actually wanting to know the truth about our history.
And that's very key what you said there, Uncle Geoff, the truth. You
know,
and it's very adamant that since 1955 you think you've seen more change since March, and that is very scary and quite alarming, because it's taken, God forget, may rest in peace, a human being dying on our screens. Let's be honest, you know, everyone saw it. For everyone to then, for the powers that be to take notice, to acknowledge, you know, that change must happen, and that's scary for me, you know.
That's why I work.
Yeah. and you know, and like, you know, listen, and that's what triggered me to do what I'm doing, you know. And I think with what you're doing, I mean, when you say you've seen more change, how does that make you feel now that you've seen this change since March?
It has motivated me even, you know, as I said, you know, sometimes when I'm not working, I sit and I read and I do things, and I, you know, go into the supermarket. But the fact is now I go into my local supermarket and I have people coming up to me, white people, and are saying, we've seen the program on TV, and, you know, it has changed our attitudes. We thought that, but now we thought that. And the last person I met was only a couple of days ago, and he was a very colonial looking white person. He was immaculately dressed and whatever. And he came up to me and he said, I'm born in the Congo. This is my village in Pennycook. He said, I was born in the Congo, and I am of a very strong colonial background. And he said, since all this which is going on, I find it abhorrent, that's his word, that somebody could be persecuted because of the color of their skin. That's in a supermarket. Now, nobody has said that to me since 1955, anywhere.
Wow.
And therefore, the work, which is not just me, loads of people now are working. You know, white and black are working. And the fact is that the attitudes are changing. And because what they saw on that screen with George Floyd was David Hume, the philosopher, who said, you know, in 1753, in his view, Negroes are inferior to whites. And that has gone into the psyche of how we've lived. And the point is that when I was talking earlier about people who won't listen to us or whatever, is because Hume said when they told him that there was a black person who was quite able, he said that person was a parrot. Because what he's saying, we are not capable of original thinking. We don't have the intellect. So we're imitating. The point is that it has gone into our educational system, it's gone into our culture, and it's been passed on. And people say, well, I'm not prejudiced, I'm not whatever. But a politician in the 60s, he won his seat by just saying, how would you like your little blonde daughter to come home with a big black guy? And that was in the 60s. The point is that he was playing on the prejudices of the negative aspects of black men. And therefore, these are the prejudices we've got to try and get rid of. This sort of subconscious. And it's fascinating. It's the first time I'm saying this now in the media, because the decision was only made a couple of days ago, where the British government said they're not going to use unconscious bias anymore. Right, that's in the news. The point is that what I said too in 2018, you know, I was asked to give a talk, and I said at the talk, and it was in Glasgow, I said there is no such thing as unconscious bias. There cannot be. Because how do you know it's unconscious? Believe you me, the government used it, big companies used it, people have talked about it, and what it was, whomever devised it, it probably came from America. What it is saying, when somebody is prejudicial or racial, we've given them an excuse.
Yes.
It was unconscious. I didn't mean it. And therefore, that's how important we, looking at things, people, all sorts of educational capacities, look at what is being said so that it can be challenged before it becomes general practice. And that the government is now saying, just a couple of days or so ago, they're going to stop it because it is of no use. That's where we are in the society we live. That somehow something like that could have gone into practice when it is not valid. One simple question would tell you that. If I did something and I said, oh, it was unconscious, how do you know I'm telling the truth?
Truth or not, yeah. it's
You've got that for the first time. I'm going to say it again and again, but you've got my first response to that. And that to me is a perfect example of why we have to be very careful still of what people put into practice about us.
It's quite damning, isn't it? It's mental. We laugh about it because I mean you can't cry, can you?
No, you have to chuckle. Things which are awful
Yeah,
are so ridiculous that we have to laugh.
100%.
Because how did anybody at government level do that with all the advisors and the expertise and therefore, to me, it somebody said, well, how could people enslave Black people? How could they put unconscious bias into practice? It's because somebody decides that's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And then they make up a story. It's what they used to call teleology. Black people come from the sunny country. They're used to it. White people don't come from a sunny country. They're not used to the sun. Black people are better slaves than white people in the Caribbean. Believe you me, it was as simple and nonsensical as that.
Let's segue into some positive stuff.
But that is positive.
No, it is. It's just
extremely positive because we've changed.
We have changed. No, we have
unconscious bias. That's one of the most positive changes we've had.
100%.
So it's not negative.
No. When I say positive, I mean it's just a damning thought, isn't it? That for so long things have been happening, and now the change. But then again, the saying goes that better late than never, I suppose.
Of course, your grandchildren will benefit.
Well, there you go.
And your children.
That's the aim. Relatively, you've got a new role. With the City of Edinburgh Council. Can you just shed some light on what you're going to be doing, and I believe it's the slavery. Please help me here.
It's legacies and street names, statues, and buildings. We have been asked to look at that, and the council. For people who are listening, the council has published a sort of information on this.
Yes.
They have done that. So, anybody wants to see it, to just look up Edinburgh. I'm not good on all this technology stuff, but if they look up the council's website, they will find that. And so I've been asked to chair that, and that has been announced.
Yes,
and we're going to look at street names, statues, and buildings. And what we're going to do is to try and we'll feed back to the council. Or I'm on another committee that's dealing with galleries and museums, and all of that I hope will provide information about our history that will, in fact, educate not only children but adults.
And that's where I am at with that last sentence. Not only educate children but adults. Because funny enough. Pardon?
Could you, because somebody is banging at my door.
Well, worry, that's fine. Go. Go.
Okay, cheers. Okay.
So when you say about changing, educating and changing, educating adults and as well as children, I think I'm in a similar position, just because I'm the leader of the BAME network. Okay, I am the first Black leader of the City of Edinburgh Council ever, and excuse me, I am necessarily teaching people stuff, teaching other colleagues, teach people that are older than me or younger than me or same age as me about racism. I'm encouraging people of ethnicity to come forward, tell their stories, their experiences, their livelihood, and all the experiences about working within the council and Edinburgh society. And it has been, probably one of the most positive whirlwinds ever since the summer, to be honest, since June.
Mhm.
And it's the inclusion of it as well, of the white people, Asian people, blacks, Eastern
Mhm.
European, that everyone working under this organization actually has the same ambition, the same quest to be treated equally, and that's like gender, sexual identity, disability, religion,
Mhm.
and stuff like that. And every day I'm learning, because I do encounter people who don't agree with me, so I try and understand why they don't agree with me. And then,
Mhm.
what my approach, Uncle Jeff, is different, because my personality is just like, I'm always positive. Um, I'm always happy. I try and understand stuff, and then I explain. And I think because I'm not militant or combative, I think that's why it's mainly received warmly. Obviously,
Mhm.
I could just pick up my screen and type in Sir Geoff Palmer and just listen to the way you talk, and then just try and copy you. Uh, um, but like,
Very
because
flattering.
I just think, Uncle Jeff, right? I just think that
Mhm.
the arguing has to stop, okay? The heated moments has to stop. There are people out there who want to actually help, and I
Yeah.
think it's very important we have to realize that, because in one man, individually can't do everything. You need a team, and you need to
Yeah.
be inclusive. This is a very massive word we use in the council. We need to be inclusive,
Mhm.
and inclusive. There's two letters there. It goes US and it goes us. It's a team, and you like how I done
Yeah.
that?
I'm learning.
I just think that it has been a massive positive change, and in what we're doing, and like, so many people are coming forward, so many people want to help and contribute, and it's crazy to think that George Floyd was the sacrifice, or the the trigger for everyone to be like, enough is enough,
Mhm.
from all communities. And mentally, for me, it's tough, as well as, I thrive on stress. Don't get me wrong, I thrive on all of this, and it's just tough though, isn't it? Because I think back to when I was growing up in Scotland, and I think about what I went through, and I think, wow, I wouldn't wish that on anyone, you know.
Mhm.
But the annoying part is that, unfortunately, it still happens today. And I know I've asked you about, obviously, like, you've seen more
Mhm.
change and stuff. Um, Going forward, how do we maintain this energy? How do we maintain this force of, this positive change? I mean, teach me, because like, every day I'm learning, and I, I know I have the energy, and I have the amazing people around me in my network and my colleagues as well. And
Mhm.
great people like Adam McVeigh, Cami Day, and so on. You know, they are there to help me. But I mean, is there anything you could say to me, or you would advise me?
Well, Dale, it's interesting that you should say that because it fits perfectly with what I'm going to say. And this is not planned. You said it, and I'm just going to pick that up.
Mm.
And this is there are certain aspects, about science in that I did a little book on science called Serial Science and Technology.
Mm-hmm.
And at the strap line, I put in it, and this is 1989, and I said, technology is science that works. So when something works, the science is right.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't work, then something about its fundamental principle of operation
Mm.
is wrong, whether you like it or not, or I like it. And what you've just said, it's interesting because you ended with, McVeigh and Day. The point is that they are the people who are involved in driving forward
Yes.
this work. which I've been asked to chair, about statues, streets, and other memorials which are linked to slavery. And therefore, you know, what can you do? The point is, it's being done.
Mm.
And what we've got to do is to respond to that. It is being done. Somebody has, from the council has asked. The council has been criticized by significant historians. They've linked me to the criticism, but criticizing me is no big deal. I'm used to it. But I object to the criticism of the council.
Mm-hmm.
Why I object is not because, you know, I support the council in that sense. I object because they have no evidence on which to base their criticism. To refer to the council as has been in the newspaper. One historian says, oh, the decision was like a kangaroo court. So this is general knowledge. I'm not talking out of turn, you know.
I know. I get you.
This was in the newspapers. And I say that is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is playing on prejudices. You know, I'm black. The council is said to be listening to me. Therefore, in fact, something must be wrong with the decision. This is where we started.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that if something isn't white, and I've been described as, because this is about history, exactly like you, where I'm now being described not as somebody who knows something about history. I'm described as a chemist. I'm described as a brewer. I'm described as, you know, somebody who doesn't know anything about history.
Yeah.
But that is very serious, because these people today in newspapers are saying, don't listen to him because he's not in our field.
Mm.
The point is that they forgot to tell the public that I've got probably one of the highest research degrees.
Yeah, they won't mention that, will they, Uncle Jay?
No, I'm a Doctor of Science,
Mm.
which is a research degree, which I don't think they have. That's the irony. So I have a capacity to do research,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been given, you know, a qualification in it. And that is where we still are.
Yes.
You know, and that for the future, your qualifications, your ability, your potential must be recognized. Other people's as well, no matter what race or class they come from.
Mm-hmm.
Their capacity, their potential. And if in fact you have the potential, that potential should be trained, should be taught to fit the position. And what I've got an example where I did some work with the NHS, and there were probably, when we started, only about 4 managers. Okay, 4.
Mm-hmm.
And when we set up a course to deal with that, to improve or increase more managers, that's what the course was designed for. I think within 2-3 years,
Mm-hmm.
it's over 20. So it's nothing to do with color, genetics, or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's to do with a lack of attention. And therefore, my hope for the future is that the system will develop strategies, and people who've contacted me, lots of people, schools, institutions, have contacted me, and we've talked about that. And what I'm saying to you is what I've said to them.
Mm-hmm.
that you develop, because if you have, for example, an equality program, it can't be just one person.
No, because it's not
It's
equality,
got to
then,
be
is
it,
it's not
no, but
equality.
but what I meant, if they have an equality person who is going to look after the equality strategy,
Okay.
that's what it's got to be some sort of a strategy or policy in which we can see possible outcomes. It mustn't just be, yes, we've got an equality policy, we've got an equality officer, end of story.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
100%. Yeah, yeah.
And therefore, these are all the things I hope for the future. And what I want is a lot more non-white people to be represented through our society in senior positions.
Mm-hmm.
And that will become a part of the knowledge base of our system.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are seen on the street, or me, I don't immediately judge a white person that they can't be a manager,
Mm-hmm.
or they're not a manager. I wait till they tell me what they are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't assume.
It's dangerous to do that.
I don't prejudge. But you see, a lot of Black people are judged
Yes.
as not having that capacity. And the story which I've told before, I'll tell it again just to explain that.
Please.
Last year I went to the festival to give a talk, and when I arrived, the attendant said, can I help you? And I said, yeah. I said, I've come to give a talk. And she said, well, what time? I said, 2:00. And she said, 2:00? You can't be giving that talk. That talk is being given by Professor Sir Geoff Palmer.
What was the conclusion of that incident then? I dare ask.
The conclusion, I just stood there and I thought, you see, now the difference is I know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So I just stood there, because between you and I, if they didn't sort this out, I'll go home.
Yeah.
Of course, the person running the event saw the discussion and came down and realized what had happened or what was being said, and just said, oh, please, Geoff, could you come in? And the young lady looked terribly embarrassed. But you see, I don't blame her. I blame the system, because she is not aware that, Black people have that capacity.
Black people can be leaders. Black people can be professors.
Yeah, and it's not her fault.
Anything.
Because the way she's been educated, her culture has told her that.
Yeah.
And it's not just one incident. The other one is where I went to an institution in Edinburgh, and I wanted to get into a building, and the guy said, do you know anybody in there? And I said, this is the porter. And I said, yeah, I used to know the previous boss. And he said, the previous boss? Were you his chauffeur?
Wow.
So again, and this is not 1940. This is 2019. Wow. And therefore, we must get people. If we're a diverse society, we need diverse management.
100%.
Or to be inefficient society. And therefore, my hope for the future is that we're going to have more diverse management. And therefore, our society will be a lot more efficient. And therefore, this is what we're working for. We're changing attitudes. We are showing how – 'How? 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 ' it is to think that without any evidence that one race is superior to the other.
Amen to that. Amen to that. And that's what, believe it or not, that's what I'm trying to incorporate in the council. I'm trying to establish relationships with HR, comms, the right departments, and ask them, we need representation in the positions, because if you look at the representation of the council, you see no representation at all. there's not no. I know one or two people in certain positions, but there's no representation in senior levels, executive level, heads level, and it's like, why? That's the question, why? And I always say, change their minds, you change their attitudes. And for me, it's you can use that if you want as well, Uncle Geoff, in one of your talks going forward.
Well, the fact is, I'm aware of that. I just told you the story. There is, a listening element. The point is, though, the system is now aware of it.
Yes.
And therefore, we have to act constructively.
And that's it. And
and that is critical. The fact is that it is not just about, as my mother would say, in an old colonial way, she says, you should stop beating up your gums without saying anything of constructive. And what we've got to get is a constructive argument. And that to me is sort of critical. And the argument is getting through. If the young lady, when she said, that talk has been given by Professor Sir Geoff Palmer, the confidence I had then, I know that I am Professor Sir Geoff Palmer.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to give other people. The confidence to say, I am Jim Bloggs.
Mm-hmm.
And I am the director of so-and-so. So you don't have to be shouting it. And the point is that the system will treat you in that way, but the system cannot make a judgment at the moment because they haven't seen the examples. And therefore, talk to your bosses, talk to whatever, work with a strategy in terms of, just as I said with the NHS, the example I gave. If we don't have managers and if we don't have whatever, it's because we haven't got a strategy to bring them on. So that's what one should be talking about.
And on that, okay, we'll wrap up with what I'm going to ask you. When I told you, I was like, yeah, so Uncle Geoff, I'm the chair of the leader of the BAME network and so on. What was your initial thoughts of that?
I thought good, and therefore you have a responsibility to, if you're approaching your bosses because you're a representative, then the leadership is about looking at what the people you're leading need. And then discuss it with them and take that to the bosses. And therefore, if you say we don't have sufficient managers or whatever, then how can we do that? We have people with the abilities and the capacities to be managers, but when they go to interview, they fail. Therefore, we've got to make sure when they go to interview, they don't fail.
Yes.
That's it. It is not, the point is, if we are just, saying this doesn't exist, that's why. This doesn't exist, that's why. That's not a strategy.
No, no, we need, I mean, as they always say, well, for me personally, it's okay to give facts, and obviously you can't argue them with opinions. We need to be constructive, like you said, and also we need a strategy to help develop
Yeah,
courage, and then to succeed,
absolutely.
isn't it? You know,
Yeah, it's that
that's what,
simple. Believe you me, it is. It's a working model,
mhm.
and therefore, if you set up means of if, for example, when black people came to Britain, we were walking around the streets in the 50s, and the insurance companies thought black people were greater risks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Yes.
know why. So we had to pay greater insurance. And the irony is, so you have a black guy driving a bus, which is highly responsible job,
Mm-hmm.
and he has a driving license or whatever. But if he tries to get a driving license for his car, he was regarded as a greater risk than a white person when he was driving buses, highly skilled.
Yeah.
Those are the sort of prejudices which we had to change. And that's what I talked about earlier, thinking that black people are not as capable. And therefore, without any training or teaching, we assume that's the same because it looks the same.
And
See,
yeah, no, 100%. Uncle Jeff, I love you. You know that. I appreciate you.
oh no,
and,
you're all my nephews. And,
do you know, like, Reggie Jr., Uncle Reggie's son?
Yeah.
He asks of you as well, and it's crazy. He just turned 32 last couple of weeks ago, and I told him, I was like, oh, I'm gonna see Uncle Jeff, and he was like, man, I need to phone him. I really need to phone him. I need to see how he's doing.
I speak to his dad. Oh, his dad checks on me.
Yeah, and to be honest,
make sure I'm okay.
Yeah, I should be checking on both of you, to be honest. So I've made it, at least once a week I'll check in on both of you.
Well, he just sent me a text or something. I say, "Oh, you're okay."
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
But
is there anything
Reginald is one of my students.
Yes.
So I knew Reginald before he brought his little children here, and Reginald worked hard, did research, and he's now working for big company.
Yeah.
So it is about addressing people's needs, and that's all we have to try and do, because it's not intelligence, it's not the capacities, it's just trying to identify the needs and then let's address them.
Amen to that. Well, Uncle Jeff, I've been for the last just under an hour. I've been asking you questions. Before we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to ask me?
Yes. What how do you think you're going to meet your ambitions?
Good question. I personally think that it's going to be a lot of hard work, commitment, and engaging with all parties. Because you said about being constructive, and also strategy. I can't create the strategy on my own.
No.
I need help. I need help from the people that, for example, have these interviews, or people that advertise these jobs. I need help from the powers that be. I need help from my network, my panel. I'm going to do it by being working hard, being committed, and asking questions, and learning myself, and then putting it all into action. Because yes, knowledge is power, and knowledge is very productive. I'm more than aware that I need other people to help me as well. And I think asking for help, there's no embarrassment to that. I think is very key, because I think, you know, I always say this: individually we're strong, but together we're stronger. But I really do think that great things can happen when you have a team. And I think my team, my panel, are amazing people. They come from a mix of Scottish, Pakistan, India, French. So my team are going to help me as well. But I just think the way I'm engaging with people, my personality, and the way I approach things is going to help. And I think, you know, I think I am changing people's minds and changing people's attitudes, because I mean, I'm on the team that's going to be helping to advise you for the statues and stuff. I've managed to convince people of joining a BAME network, the very first one in the St Edinburgh Council. I'm establishing relationships with councillors, Adam, Cami, different Scottish parties and stuff, political parties, and that's all within 6-7 months. So
that's wonderful.
So,
you know,
yeah, I just think to keep doing what I'm doing, and it does help if you do it with a smile.
Yeah, you're working. You see, what I have, I don't know where I got it from, but if I'm of a team or somebody asks me to do something, then I'm committed to that.
Yes.
And I don't, you know, I'm there to achieve an objective. I want an outcome. And I'm going to work towards that outcome, and I hope to take people with me. And if I need help, I ask for it.
100%.
And that is the critical aspect. So if you think you need help to become a manager, then sit and discuss it with somebody, or the system sets up courses or trainings which embodies that need. So part of your job as leader is to say, now, what are the factors that limit us from becoming managers? What are they? And one has got to be sometimes brutally honest. You know, I'm not good at communicating because I wasn't educated. I come from a family that taught me that.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I need to understand structures. I've got to understand rules, you know, I've got to be on time, I've got to do this. And the point is that if you're a leader, you then say, what are the things that are limiting us from managers other than skin color or race? You know, and get them instituted to help that change. You see the point I'm making?
No, 100%. I'm agreeing with you. You know,
because that's the NHS story I've got. That we had the same people, and when that specific course was designed and set up, we went from 4 to over 20. So
successful story.
You see what I mean? So yeah. It's then. Whereas the race element gone. So your job,
thank you,
identify those needs and get them addressed.
Amen to that, amen to that. And we're going to wrap up there.
Okay.
Thank you so much. To the people that are watching, please make sure you like and subscribe. And thank you again, Uncle Geoff.